it's a Catholic perspective.
Yes.
Things. And so I encourage this.
Any other comments? No, so I think we'll go ahead with that. So thank you. And the second one there, board discussion meetings, dates and times. Right now, we have all of the discussion meetings for full days. Robert, that poses a problem for you.
Yeah, I'm only allowed to split 1 week of work, and all those days are taken up by QP negotiation. So I just, I'm not able to get the full days, but I was assured that if we could do afternoons, they could let me off early. If we could do maybe a re-envisioned discussion meeting in the afternoon.
So
But I can't do-
like from noon on?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. But I can't do a full day, I'm not able to get up.
It's just that they have gone so late when we start so late. So what time did we start last year?
9
9?
in the morning.
Not for all of them, did we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
some
were
we-
always done, sorry.
And then I think we did some later, but then we kind of had to rebook because we didn't finish. But
You guys can meet without me, I don't have a problem with it, but I just can't do full days, I just can't get out, so.
Well, any other comments on that? David?
I have no problem starting in time. And if we go, we got to do the work, we got to do the work. So if it goes to 5, 6 o'clock, it goes to 5, 6 o'clock. We are entering a period this next year where we could be asked to make a lot of very important decisions that require a lot of discussion. And so I think it's important that people want to be there and that we make it work. So I don't have a problem starting at any time.
Go ahead.
I was going to mention similar to what Trustee Leahy said, is that given the projects that are going on now, I'm hazarding guess we're going to have a handful more meetings coming up. And so we may have shorter days, but more meetings to get all those answers that we need.
And I think it's important that Robert be there too. Like I was thinking we would have to start at 2:30 or something to accommodate you. But if we could start at noon.
Would 1 be better? Because if we start at noon, then it's almost implying that we're gonna bring a lunch in, and I'd rather not bring a lunch in, I'd rather just have my own lunch.
We could have lunch before noon. It just gives us a little more time. We could go at 12:30 and then make sure you eat before then. Is that okay with everybody?
So all those dates that were proposed, we can, with my work, with my manager, we can do those dates. So I would prefer if we'd stick to those dates that were proposed, because that's already kind of written, like we're planning for those dates.
Okay.
Just move it a little bit later.
is it till like 4:30 or am I booking till later just so that I can get that part figured too?
I leave it open-ended.
It's hard
Open
to
till
say
6.
that.
If we finish early, great.
I think most of the meetings that we've had have typically been done by lunch. We have lunch
Yeah.
later on, so it will just depend on the topic that day. But
Okay, so we'll start at 12:30, we'll book it till 6, but if we're done early, we're out of here. Is that good with everybody?
Yes.
Okay, board work plan. Chelsea, you know more about this than me.
So basically, I have put together the board work plan based on kind of everything that's coming up for the year. The only thing that I just left undetermined was the meeting dates, just because those had to, the times more so. just as that had to be discussed, so I just put this forward for approval. There's some dates to be announced, which will be put in as soon as they're determined, but put forward for a motion for approval.
Just before okay, go ahead.
I was going to, and I don't know if this requires an amendment or not, I hope not, that there be another box created for to be determined. Like I would like us to make a better, I'm sorry, I don't want to say a better. I would like for us to meet with our MLAs this year. So I think that should be part of our board work plan, that to be determined meetings with MLAs. And then I think another thing to be determined would be stakeholder meetings regarding the consolidation project. And the format and the content of those meetings will be determined by the outcome of our work with the government on planning this new facility. I think
So where do you see that, in a separate box?
in a separate box or somewhere, just so that we know and our public knows that we're also kind of making it a commitment. You know, we're going to meet with our MLAs this year, and we're going to be meeting with our stakeholders this year about the consolidation project.
Can we call that banked items, or not really banked, what would that word be? Like, we need to,
Well,
just a list, yeah.
when I was a principal, I used to have a box on my agenda and I called it memory. So you could just two things to remember. I think what it's called is,
The to-do list.
Yeah.
Bernie?
Dave, if I could ask you, just for a point of clarification, so are you thinking you'd like to have meetings with our constituents, parents, teachers, prior to any sort of motion that we might make towards consolidation? Or is that something in the future that you're looking towards?
that's why I said, Mr. Kinch, I don't know if it's the exact quote of what I said, format purpose of these meetings to be determined. So to me, our discussions with the province about this new building are so nebulous and we haven't really got our arms around it. Yeah, I guess I'm not answering your question, but.
Well, I agree with you totally in that it's nebulous. We have no idea what's going on, what's going to happen, what's going to occur, whether it's even in fact going to be approved. And that's why I'm asking if your intent was to say, let's try and have these engagement meetings prior to any sort of motion going forward.
No, that wasn't my intent.
Okay.
My intent is to make a commitment from the board that sometime during this year, as part of our work plan, we will engage our public in discussions about the consolidation project. And then whatever happens, yeah, at least that. So the answer to your question is no.
Okay.
I did not have it in my intent to put a time frame on them or whatever.
Okay, so we need a recommendation here passed on the work plan, so we're going to add, is that an amendment? What do we call that?
I will make that amendment
Okay.
if that is deemed necessary.
That's the amendment on the consolidation meeting?
That's
So the amendment on this recommendation on the board.
I'm making an amendment, Mr. Mastel, that we add to this document an area that says to be determined MLA meetings, and then to be determined public meetings concerning the consolidation project.
Okay, I agree with the consolidation part, but I think for the MLA, and you're right, it's in our mandate actually to meet with them annually. If I could suggest that we have our executive secretary contact his office and her office, it might be difficult to get a meeting with the premier. But with the MLA from Cyprus, shouldn't be that difficult, that we get a couple of dates, possible dates, hopefully before Christmas, that we meet sometime this fall. And just put that into motion.
Okay, we're dealing with this motion here though, on the,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
so the amended one adds that box in. Okay, so all in favor?
You,
Now, did you want to make another?
Yes, I would like to amend. I'm not sure where you want to place this on the,
Do you want to make a motion to meet with the MLA?
to meet with the MLA,
I'm actually going to talk about that on my ECSTA report.
and that we ask the executive secretary to begin to look for some dates that would have to be planned around the House being in session, although they have constituency days even when it's in session. And give us the option of a couple of dates.
Greg said that it's part of the work plan now, so they will just make it happen. Okay, so we don't need a motion for that then.
I don't believe so, but now that it's part of the work plan, we'll just make it work.
Okay. Right.
it's a direction.
All right, thank you. Information items, strategic priorities update.
So the strategic priorities report is attached. Given that we're just a few weeks in, there's not a lot of action that's happened so far in there. So the next report will have similarly sort of the list of things that were done, but also graphically a representation of how far we moved along on the goals as well. So that's easier to see the progress that's being done as opposed to just always having a list of things. Although I think the list is helpful for trustees to see what's being done, but as well just to show you where we are in terms of progress.
Thank you. Staffing update, Mr. Gale.
Thank you. So as was communicated to the board earlier, late August, we required to add an additional 2.4 FTE to our staffing. I have attached a spreadsheet to my report which outlines kind of the class compositions before and after those changes were made, as well as some of the staffing that's in place in those locations. This was accurate as of last week, Tuesday, I believe, so there have been some fluctuations in class sizes even since then, none of which are causing us any other concerns. I also believe, actually, Hugh and I spoke yesterday morning that some of his staffing is higher than reported in this document as well. But I would draw your attention to the JP2 English class, the 5-6 class that we split in the afternoons. Potentially would have looked at splitting that the entire day, but the space concern there. We had available space in the afternoon, but not in the morning. The additional class that was created at St. Francis Xavier School. You can see the previous was in yellow and the new is in blue. So our class sizes, we had a concerning class size of 33 in a 5-6 split. We've now gotten down to 27. And then St. Patrick's as well. We added an additional grade 1 class, split the 1-2s into a 1 and a 2. And you can see the resulting class sizes there. If there are any questions.
Mr. Gale, so what's the actual number of increased students for the whole district?
So that number is fluid right now. Right. I'll have a better idea at the end of the month. When we made this decision, we were looking at something about 5 increase from budget. I think we have maybe better position to answer that.
We're up 26 FTE from but 52 in grade 1 through 12. We are up 2 in ECS K, and as it stands currently, we are down 54 in ECS Puff. But as you're probably familiar, we have up to December to get those students identified and registered. So,
Okay. Just, I may have misunderstood. So total number of student increase for the district would be?
right now, we are up to 52 in grades 1 to 12. We are up 2 in ECS kindergarten, and currently we are down 54 in ECS Puff. So right now, 26 FTE above budget, but we do expect those ECS count numbers to bump up at the end of this summer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is that everything? Okay, thank you.
Sorry, David.
Oh, I'm sorry, David.
Mr. Gale, if you can help me understand on St. Mary's, that's on page 9 of 11. In grade 7, I see 29, including 6 French immersion. And then I see 33, including 6 French immersion. What's going on there?
So in order to make the timetable work, the French immersions are dispersed in a couple of the different classrooms. I wanted to draw attention to the grade 7s in particular. At one class, there's 33 students with 6 French immersion students. The 33 students are only together for a very small portion of the day, their homeroom period and their religion class. And then all their core time, those French immersions would split off. So the actual functioning group for those core classes is 27.
And then we only have, so we have 12 kids in French immersion in grade 7. We have 8 kids in French immersion in grade 8. And we have 9 kids in French immersion in grade 9.
That's correct.
So there was, take your poison. There was there any discussion about making one split class out of that?
Out of French immersions?
Yeah.
So the French immersions do have some split time. I believe some of their in their timetable. I'd have to look and speak with Principal Van Middelkoop. But in the past, the 7-8s have done a split for some of their core classes in order to make it fit the timetable. Yeah. And they have to adapt that based on the class sizes and who's available at the time.
I know you're very, very busy, but I'd like to know, even the last couple of years, what how many kids stay in French immersion from grade 6 to grade 7?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Gill? All right, Leadership Enhancement Program, Mr. Gill.
Thank you again. So attached is our report. So this is part of our strategic priorities and work plan for the year that we're going to begin offering a leadership enhancement program. What I've attached to that document is what we'll be sending out tomorrow to gain interest in this program. This was developed in concert with the Alberta Teachers Association representative, who's the PD chair. Nancy from Edmonton came down and had a meeting with myself and 2 of our school-based administrators to come up with what the curriculum for this program would look like throughout the next 2 years. We are going to be asking our teaching staff members who have an interest in this to apply to this program by submitting a resume, cover letter, and then the short application form that's attached where it says you can click here. That will take you to a Google form. You can see the questions that we're going to be asking to them. And again, that will be sent out to staff tomorrow.
To all staff?
To all teaching staff.
Go ahead.
I know in the past when these programs have been run, one of the comments made was that those people who take, consideration will be given to those people when they, if they take this course, when they apply for administrative positions. Are we taking the same approach this time?
So if you'll read at the very top, the purpose of the program, the second paragraph then reads, although participation does not guarantee a future administrative position, and conversely, not being a part of this group does not exclude you from any future administrative positions. But you have a chance to come in and work with us for 2 years and gain a better understanding of what it is that we're looking for in an administrator.
Okay, so, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Bernie?
Hi, I'm just curious as to why we would require a cover letter, resume, and completed leadership enhancement program application for our own teachers that we likely know very well, and why we would potentially reject some of their interests.
So I guess what we're looking for is a committed group of folks that have identified that this is something they'd like to work on. We don't know all of everyone's educational backgrounds, whether they're working on a master's degree or if they're currently involved in other community things that we may be able to gain an understanding from here. The meeting that we had with Nancy from the ATA, she expressed that you do want an application process. You don't want this to just be open. You'd like folks to express an interest and have to demonstrate some of those leadership skills in that process.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we will move on to nutrition program, and that's Mr. Gale as well.
Thank you. There were some questions about, I believe in June, I think Trustee Risling, you had asked if we could provide a bit of an update in terms of what this program is doing. So this month, all of the existing sites that we had on board last year, St. Francis, St. Louis, St. Michael's, and Mother Teresa, were all receiving their same options that they were last year. Beginning in October, St. Patrick's and JP2 will be joining as well. Both of the new schools will be receiving the breakfast. I've also attached at the bottom for you to review is the September menu that will be going out to all of the sites, and the menu would be similar to there as well. In terms of the staffing update, we have hired the additional help of the chef that's working at Monsignor McCoy High School. There will be also some additional part-time positions that will be hired this month to begin in October.
So do we have more money for that program, or?
So we had an increase in funding for that program.
Okay. Steven?
Where is the food prepared?
Multiple sites, primarily it's going to be at Monsignor McCoy. They have a nice kitchen space there, but they are set up to do some cooking at Mother Teresa as well. But I think they're going to start to get away from that a little bit to centralize a little bit more.
So, today I read the report, the preliminary report on the issues that happened in Calgary with this E. coli outbreak.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was that the food wasn't transported in proper refrigeration.
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes the routes were too long. So I'm going to assume that that's, we're doing, everybody's trained in food safety.
Yes.
And all that kind of stuff.
I believe that's actually part of the grant, is to ensure that those staff members receive that training.
Okay.
Bernie?
I might direct this to Mr. McPherson. So I'm thinking that this is basically the grant money is coming in and it covers the entire cost of the program. Are we bearing anything with regard to that?
The budget would suggest that we're not going to bear any costs. It's been fully supported by the grant over the past few years. We would expect that process to continue on.
Okay. Thank you. And I asked that because it said we're having to hire additional staff, and I just was concerned about expenditures. Thank you.
Just for context, the nutrition grant has gone up significantly. Last year, it was $150,000. It went up $83,000 to $233,000.
Excellent.
Robert?
Yeah, thanks, Nick, for this report. I was looking at the menu and I was kind of had an idea. I've never seen a menu, what we're actually feeding the kids. And so I see on Wednesdays we have egg and cheese. This kind of runs on every Wednesday. And it got me to thinking about Friday. It's long been a tradition in the church that we have, we abstain from meat. I know that, like, let's be honest, most Catholics don't regard that as something to consider, but it's still a requirement. One of the precepts of the church, established by the Canadian Catholic Conference of Bishops, that Fridays are to be days of abstinence, irregardless of whether it's Lent or not. And if we choose to eat meat on a Friday, that we should be doing acts of charity. So this precept of the church has long been lost on the faithful. But I think it's a good opportunity that we could initiate in our schools. Like, it looks like there is a possibility that we could have meatless Fridays in our schools and use it as a teaching opportunity to help enculturate our kids into the traditions of the church. So I'm not asking you to change September menu, but maybe it's something that we could consider.
I know in the
That's
past,
one idea.
it had been during Lent, there was meatless option.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's.
I think that's a good idea. I think anytime we have the opportunity to permeate faith,
Yeah.
we do it. And this is one really easy way to do it. Grilled cheese and tomato soup, like, that's easy. All right, thank you, Mr. Gill. Staff professional development, Mr. Laird.
Thank you. Just an update of two PD trainings we have going on throughout the year. One is for our learning assistants in conjunction with the teachers who will be doing their online modules that not only in collaboration with all the divisions in the South, we're able to get a great deal on these trainings. Every division is doing it differently, and every school will do it a little bit differently when they're being done. It's about a 2-year project to get them all finished, but the most important thing is that the teacher and the learning assistants do it together. That's where the true learning and collaboration will take place, so we're really excited about that. There's a little video if you want to go in there and learn more about it, but we won't show that today. The second is around collaborative response. Collaborative response is well known in Alberta and going throughout Canada. We did an exercise with our administrators around what are your collaborative structures in your school. Some had some didn't. Some had some but had no idea what was going on in them. So I think it was a good opportunity to look at what opportunities do you have to collaborate within your school at different levels, around students, around issues, around curriculum. And Curtis Houston on the 22nd is going to present to the entire division on a model that we have schools that are going to jump in right away. We have schools that are looking at it. We have schools that might take a piece here or there. It's not mandated in any way, but they're very interested to look at what collaborative structures they have in their buildings and what's their purpose. So we're bringing Curtis in. He'll be speaking to the whole division in the morning, and then there'll be breakout sessions with each school to work on their plan in the afternoon. And once again, there's a little video clip if you want to look into that as well. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Communication report. Are you doing that, Chelsea?
Yes, so Darian unfortunately was not able to be here, but she's back. As you probably all know, she just started up at the end of August here and is kind of back regular this past couple of weeks. She was making a 0.5 position for communications. So she's attached a short report there. We're continuing with the analytics that were requested last year, which she has attached. And then also just a bit of information about National Truth and Reconciliation Day, which we will be recognizing at the end of the month on September 28th and 29th in our schools. There are basically 4 different blocks, morning, afternoon for 2 days that we're getting all the schools together and have different presenters coming to speak week, there's an answer. So more information will be sent out in detail so that trustees can have a look at it probably by the end of this week. But yeah, if there's any questions about communications or reports, please let me know.
Okay, any questions, comments? Thank you. All right, action and discussion items, the stained glass windows, Dr. Ritchie.
So in the report attached, there are two documents. One is a background of the stained glass windows and a picture of one of the windows that's been completed by Mr. Weissman. The other attachment is a document that he provided initially when he approached us to see if we were interested in purchasing them, just to give us an idea of what they would cost. So in previous discussions, the board has indicated that they'd like to have the windows. So he believes all three can be repaired. And so the total cost for all three would be $51,000. I did actually just meet with him the other day. He came in just to see where we were with this and said that he would be asking the board at this meeting to approve the project. And I also shared with him that part of the contract that we would be drawing up with him would be an understanding that we most likely won't need the windows for a few years because the building's not built yet, and so we have to have a place to store them. And presumably, once we decide where we're going to put them and how we're going to install them, that might be able to contract them to do that depending on what they decide on that. So, Eric can answer any questions the board may have. Otherwise, we recommend it.
I have one. Is that 51,000 installed, or is that just for the windows?
That's
Ready?
I guess my first question is, where are we finding this $51,000?
Well, it'd be a building project cost, so we assume that part of the dollars that the fundraiser would be, if the board approves the fundraising initiative, that part of the money is the sheet fundraisers would get paid for those things.
David?
Could it be included as part of the cost of the new school?
Part of the cost that the government pays for?
No, well, yeah. So let's say, we've had a discussion about the Catholic atmosphere of this building. And I understand that the government may not specifically say, listen, we're not paying for Catholic items. But frankly, there are other schools that are built that have artistic elements to them. And I know I'm asking a question you don't know the answer to because it has to come from the government. But is there a possibility, do you think, that this could be encapsulated within the costs of that new school?
I think if it was incorporated into the design of the building, so like some schools have crosses that are out of glass blocks or something that are built, so I think that's the discussion we would have.
I had a question, where were we going to store these? But I think you answered that by saying, listen, Robert, we may not need these for literally 2.5 years.
And he said he could install them. Dick?
Have we given any consideration whether these windows are going to be part of the exterior or whether they're going to be interior? And does that change the work that has to be done on them? And as to weatherproofing and things that go with that?
I think when I talked to Mr. Weissman, he indicated, if we wanted them to be visible from the outside of the building, then it would be best to hang them behind a set of windows. And then during the day, the sunlight would come in through the glass and light the school with that. You'd have that effect, and then at night we would backlight the windows so they can be visible to the but he did really recommend incorporating the structural windows. Building, because that would be a significantly different project.
Bernie?
Madam Chair, so I have difficulty with saying that the money may come from fundraising. We haven't done any fundraising, but I would suspect that we would have to pay for this quite soon so that the work could go ahead. I don't know whether we're going to pay for it on an installment basis or what the plan would be. But we have no fundraising at present. So again, I'll go back and go, where's the money going to come from and how are we going to pay for it and how is the payment plan going to work?
Well, somewhere in here I read he wanted a $10,000 deposit, right?
Usually, the worst case scenario, we draw on our reserves and replenish those reserves.
The capital reserves? Yes.
It would be ministerial.
So which reserves would it be at?
Wrong. I would suspect they're unrestricted.
Okay, and for me, that's problematic because if we're going to spend that money, I'd rather see it spent on something directly in the classroom.
Anything else? David?
And I don't know, not up on my, up the order of things, but I'm on, because, and I'm not, because administration hasn't been able to fully enunciate where this money is going to come from now, even the $10,000, I'd like to make a motion to table this motion until administration can provide us with a more details as to, okay, this is where we think we're gonna, the $10,000 he needs right away, this is where we're gonna get it from. I didn't hear a definitive answer to that. So I don't wanna vote against this right now, but I don't feel comfortable voting for it either. So I'm making a motion to table this until next month when administration can give us more detail. I don't know, if my memory serves me correctly, there's no, maybe Mr. Mastel can help us, there's no debate on a tabling motion, it just gets voted on? I don't know.
I believe that a motion table is not debatable, and you don't vote on it either. It's just a motion that occurs. And again, I defer to Greg.
Typically, the board has acted reasonably, and if it's your will to table it to the next meeting, that's probably something we can accommodate very easily.
Does he need an answer right away? That's the other part of it.
I would assume that he's expecting a response.
So what do people want to do?
Well, Madam Chair, on a point of order, I think the matter has been tabled.
Okay,
So that's the end of the discussion.
all right.
Are there opportunities to look at Two Friends of McCoy? We've fundraised.
Well, I was thinking that as well, but I don't know if we can.
Well, the money the Friends of,
Yeah, go ahead.
the money the Friends of McCoy has raised, it's for the theater. That's the commitment we made. Like 99.9% of the money we've raised was through match day.
Great.
So I don't think the argument could be made that these windows are for the theater.
Okay, well, we have tabled it till next month. So go on to 11.2, new skill will build. Dr. Zritsky.
So we have a pre-design meeting coming up on Thursday. Hopefully, as a result of that meeting, we'll have the beginning of a list of items that our infrastructure will require us to make decisions on or provide input on. And then that will give us the topics that we'll use when we engage with staff, students, and parents in the design process. Additionally, in the report, there's a preliminary timeline that's been attached there in terms of the construction of the new school.
Okay, any questions? Okay, we will move, we will move on to 11.3, ACSDA request for the Alberta School Foundation Fund opt-out. I was just in Edmonton at a director's meeting and there was a lot of talk about this. Would you like to talk about it, Mr. McPherson?
Most of the information is within my report. This is a request from ACSTA. They would like to remind the minister about Catholic boards retaining the right to tax our residents as guaranteed within the Constitution. I would remind the trustees that this opting out at this point is entirely symbolic. There's the Education Act provides the timelines on when the board may opt out, but I understand this is a issue that ACSTA would like to bring to the minister. So the recommended motion that ACSTA has provided is be it resolved that the Board of Trustees for the Medicine Hat Catholic Board of Education, in accordance with section 164.2 of the Education Act, certifies that Division 4 of Part 6 does not apply to this board. That's a long way of saying you want to opt out of the ASFL.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I will make that motion.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? Bernie?
So, Madam Chair, so this really is just, it holds no weight, it's totally symbolic.
Yeah. But it's important that we do it. It's important that we are on the same page, all the ACSTA.
So are all the Catholic divisions going to
Yes.
do the same thing?
Yeah. Go ahead. No.
Further to that, Madam Chair, under the leadership of the previous executive director, the request was that these motions be sent to the ACSTA and they are presented to the minister as one package. Again, to show solidarity and to remind the minister that we have that right.
Okay.
Just one more comment.
Go ahead.
Sorry. So it's your understanding that all the Catholic districts are in agreement and will do this, and there's no one who's going to decide, no, I don't think I want to.
At the directors meeting, and I can only tell you what happened there because I was there, everybody around the table was in agreement with this.
Thank you.
And that's all I can say because that's all I know. David, did you have something to say?
On a new item.
Okay. So let's vote on this one, okay? So Mr. Mastel moved it. All in favor? Thank you.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I've been searching since we've had the discussion on my tabling motion, and I found a quick reference guide at the University of Cornell. And this quick reference guide says the tabling motions you do require a vote. And in order for it to be tabled, a majority of the board must agree. I will admit it's only one reference, but
So do we go back to 11.1 then?
You can have that vote if you wish.
Okay. So to table the 11.1, the motion for the stained glass windows, can, David's made the motion?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Thanks for that,
No, it's okay. I didn't know either. That's why I was,
Makes sense.
All right, 11.4, capital campaign consulting service appointment. Greg.
Thank you. So the RFP for the capital campaign consulting services has been issued and closed. 4 proponents have submitted proposals. The selection committee met on August 29th and evaluated the proposals and has developed a recommendation to the Board of Trustees to appoint Newman Consulting as the successful proponent. The proposals were evaluated and scored by the selection committee based on the firm experience relevant to this proposal, qualifications of personnel proposed for the project, and the cost effectiveness. As I said, Newman Consulting was the successful proponent, which is provided for a recommendation to the board. And that recommendation is, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees for the Medicine Hat Catholic Board of Education award the capital campaign consulting services contract to Newman Consulting.
Any questions? Bernie?
Madam Chair, what is the cost of this campaign?
I don't know it off the top of my
I
head.
didn't see it.
So the hope for this was to raise upwards of $7 million. The amount of the contract based on the specific deliverables, not the costs in excess, are I want to say $244,000.
Is that contingent upon meeting our fundraising goal?
No, that's based on her providing the
service.
The services.
And again, I'll ask the question, where are we finding the money for this?
That is part of the project, and it will have to come out of operational funding. Ideally, in the end, the fundraising will cover the cost, but in the interim, until we have cash flow coming in, we'll have to come from operational funds.
And what is the payment schedule?
It's a monthly amount, and I don't have that on.
Monthly amount for 1 year, 2 years?
For
2 years. And that's out of operational costs. Okay.
Madam Chair, that information was in the packet that, I forget the lady's name now, presented to us when she was here. I don't remember the.
Rhonda.
Rhonda, yes. I don't remember the numbers exactly, but it was in the paperwork that she had given to us. I want to say it's $12,000 a month, but I may be wrong on that. The other thing I'd like to know, Greg, what kind of a contract are we going to be writing with her? And say 6 months in, we're not doing so well. Is there the opportunity to say we're going to cut our losses and bail out?
We will ensure that there's a termination clause built in, so both parties can divorce it as appropriate.
Hopefully that wouldn't be necessary, but we got to cover the bases.
Yeah. We're all friends until
Something goes wrong.
Madam Chair, to Secretary Treasurer again. So could the cost for this program, rather than coming from operations, come from the monies we received from the sale of our last school? My concern is, again, we're drawing from operation, which is directly out of the classroom?
So, the sale of the building has to be spent on capital items. I would be pretty hard pressed to say that this is a capital expenditure.
Okay, no, I understand that.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, so we need to pass this motion. So who would? Robert? And all in favor? 4, all against? 1. Pass. Okay, 23-24 financial update, Mr. McPherson.
Thank you. This is a update with the going changes. We're still exceedingly early in the process, but currently we're up 1% over budget or 26 FTE, and we went through the details during Mr. Gale's presentation. The final funding count date is September 29th. However, the PUF children continue to be identified until December. Based on the information that we have in hand, the impact of the enrollment increase is an additional $160,000 using the weighted moving average. The precise revenue impacts will be made after the September count date. As a result of the enrollment adjustments, an additional 2.5 FTE of teachers were hired to address the pressure points, as Mr. Gale outlined. The impact of those additional teachers and certain other pressures we have, and those are outlined on the third page of my report, are increased costs currently of $213,000. That results in a current increase of the deficit by $53,000, which would result in an annual projected deficit of $219,000. Again, the precise figures for all of this will be determined in the fall for the first quarter financial update. So in terms of what the adjustment to the expenditures, the additional teacher FTE is forecasted to be about $194,000. There's an increased cost to the Monsignor McCoy computer room for the replacement of the computers there of $4,600. IT evergreening of computers, an additional $1,250. And the Braiding Together conference had an increased cost of $13,000. So that gives you the $213,000 worth of total expenditures. So this is for information. No vote is needed, but we will have a budget in adjustment discussion as part of the first quarter budget update.
If the ECS kindergarten situation does not improve appreciably, what are we looking at in terms of a shortfall?
So we haven't worked those numbers precisely, but the ECS enrollment is we're down 54 FTE, but we fully expect those numbers to come up.
Right.
If they don't, we'll be having discussions with Hugh about his PUF budget, because that's exactly the funding that's being affected, and we'll have to make adjustments. Historically, we start looking in October, and if those numbers aren't starting to materialize, we're starting to have those discussions with Hugh about learning assistant time and other costs.
In relation to the Braiding Together increase, the religious education budget is augmented by a percentage of the funds we get from international education, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Do we know exactly how many students we're getting now from international education? And is that up or down? And will that increase result in a change in the the religious education budget, and perhaps some help to deal with this expenditure?
So with regard to the expenditure, the budget was set based on 65 FTE. We currently have 55 FTE within the hopper. We're working with our international ed department to determine exactly how many students will be coming for second semester. So they're just getting the first semester sorted out. So once that's crystallized, we'll move on and start having those hard discussions. With regards to the 13,000, the intent is to use the surplus funds within the religious ed component that was reserved within the international ed budget, and to offset those costs.
Okay, thank you. And just to remind me, this year the profits from international education are being split two ways, between religious education and the theater project.
That's correct. So it's split 50-50, and then a portion is going to already to support the increased expenditures within religious ed. That still leaves a surplus, and I don't have the exact number here, but
Perhaps you could get it to us later for next month. And then my next question is, does that help? Could we direct some of that money to some of these costs that we talked about earlier, i.e. the stained glass windows?
that's a really good point, and that actually slipped my mind. We do have those funds earmarked for that, so that does become a pool to draw from. That actually ties in very well to.
And with that, we would only need to access $10,000.
Initially.
Right now.
Okay, so.
Very good. Ready?
Madam Chair, if I can direct to Mr. McPherson again. So that 219,000 is the projected deficit for the year?
Based on the information that we have here.
Right.
So we're still early in the process and
Yes.
assessing,
Can change with enrollment as of the end of the month.
or as spending plans adjust. Yes.
Right. Additionally, does that reflect, or is it influenced by the last motion we made that the board passed to hire the consulting firm for fundraising?
This does not impact any of that, so we'll still be making those adjustments now that we have the motion to proceed with the fundraiser. That will be one of those inputs that goes in.
So could I assume that that number would change if it was $12,000 a month for the consultant? That's $144,000 that we would be increasing our deficit by that much?
Potentially, but as fundraising dollars start rolling in, we could be offsetting those costs with the fundraising potentially.
But there is another $144,000 of potential deficit.
Potentially.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comment?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Greg, I have a question. I know that administration always talk about the number or the increase over budget. My question is, what have we done year over year? That's the number that, for some reason, I like to focus on.
For enrollment?
For enrollment, yes.
Sure, we can provide that.
I think you
Well,
have to do that. Well, it's 55 plus.
I could read your guess. I think it was 17 in budget, your increase from last year, plus the 55 now.
So 17 and 55?
Yeah.
I'd have to get
Yeah, that's
numbers.
I'm getting a little nervous about my commitments, so that's why I'm asking.
Well,
He sees the hat coming.
there's also been a bit of a shift in terms of counting. From my seat, we count FTEs, not bodies. So there's been a bit of a shift on the counting bodies.
Just to qualify the HAP discussion, however, when we talked about it, when I was hired, we were talking about the number of bodies, so.
Go ahead, Bree.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, direct to Mr. McPherson. I neglected to ask, and I apologize, does that 219 as presented include the amount of increased spending we had to agree to for busing?
Not yet, no, but we're still finalizing the precise numbers. And also with that, because of the enrollment, we expect higher revenue coming in for busing. So until I get that solidified, I don't want to create a sense of panic on those costs. So without knowing the precise costs and the precise revenues, I don't want to start going down.
Could you give me a ballpark figure? Like, would it be $100,000?
I wouldn't want to do that at this point. The enrollment is still in the state of flux. Students are still registering for busing, so it's still early.
Okay, I'm trying to remember. I think the agreement was 15% increase. Is that correct? Okay.
So that will be an additional cost that will be reflected as part of the first quarter up.
But we had.
But we'll also know what our revenue numbers for that increase are.
Did we not, when we passed our budget in May, I believe it was, include 10% increase? So it's an additional 5%
Over budget.
over this 219 plus the 144. Okay, thank you.
Okay, David?
Just a question about when does the final number, Mr. McPherson, need to be in for busing? Because the reason I ask is from my experience as a principal, Johnny and Sally may not go on the bus until the snow flies, and then boom, they're taking the bus. When's the cutoff?
So in terms of ridership, people are going to keep coming, but we're asking for parents to register now, regardless if they're on the bus or not, so we can ensure there's enough spaces.
I'm sorry, I didn't answer. I didn't ask the question clearly enough. When does the government cut it off?
September 30th.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? We'll move on to 11.6. Fort St. John Paul II School Modulars.
And this is a housekeeping motion. As you know, we were approved for the relocation of 2 modulars from St. Michael's School to St. John Paul II School. Wall Construction was the successful bidder at $474,000, and it is recommended that we enter into the contract with Wall Construction. So those modulars are already installed and they are operational. We've also been approved for a washroom modular at the Cole St. John Paul II School. The modular is expected to be completed construction at the end of November, and that the washroom would be installed and operational by the end of March of 24. So there is a recommended motion for the trustees, that being, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees for the Medicine Catholic Board of Education accept the recommendations of the FWBA architects for a CCDC 22020 stipulated price agreement with Wall Construction Limited for the relocation of 2 Modus classroom units from St. Michael's School to a Cole St. John Paul II School in the amount of $474,000 plus GST, funded by Alberta Education.
Hey, would somebody like to move that? David? Any discussion? Ready?
Madam Chair, again, I'll direct this to Mr. McPherson. Sorry. Is this just a money in, money out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But because we are the builder in this case, we're going to get the money and then pull it out
And it's dollar for dollar.
It's dollar for.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes,
May I ask, related to this, a bit about why is it taking till March to have the washrooms operational?
Well, they're not even built yet, so
Okay.
they're being constructed.
Okay, fair enough.
We expect them to be finished construction at the end of November.
Okay.
And then, it'll take a bit of time to get them installed. So,
Thank you.
where
I
are they
thought they were-
constructed at? Not Medicine.
no, they're constructed in
The High River.
somewhere near there. There's a big site there, and then
Okay.
they get shipped here for construction or for installation.
Okay, committee reports. ATA, Mr. Mastel. Negotiation.
Madam Chair, nothing to report, other than there are 4 days scheduled for negotiations. Those being September 26, 27, 28. 3 days for negotiations scheduled for all day events. We haven't heard anything from the employees that those dates won't work, or
I've confirmed with the union
The union, sorry.
and they're good to go. with
they're good to go.
We'll just work out the timing, but the dates themselves.
I'm hoping it won't take that long, but there are 3 days scheduled.
Okay, thank you. QP. Heat and water.
We begin our negotiations in October. We had 4 dates set aside to negotiate, but it looks like someone canceled out on the 12th.
The 12th is still to go. October 13th has been.
Oh, okay, so I got the dates mixed up. Are we gonna try to reschedule another day in there?
Well, we have two other days after the end of the month, so we'll see how negotiations go and make a good decision.
Alright. That's my report.
Thank you. Teacher Board Advisory, Mr. Kinch.
Madam Chair, we're still waiting to determine the actual dates of the meetings, and that
Okay.
should, I would assume, happen in the next couple of weeks.
Great, thank you. Support Staff Board Advisory, Economic.
So our next meeting will be September 19th. Hopefully we will, we're trying to restructure that committee because there's not a lot of interest. And so we'll discuss where we're moving forward on the 19th.
Perfect. QP Support Staff, Mr. Leahy.
No report?
Student Board Advisory Committee. I have no report. Nick, do you have anything with that?
I don't.
That's you and me, right? So that-
I didn't, but.
but I know. Audit Committee, it says a whole bunch of names there, but I'm gonna turn it to you.
Thank you. So we'll be working with the audit committee to meet with the auditor in October and then set date for the audit financial statements.
Perfect. Thank you. Division Consolidation Planning Committee, Dr. Zerchny.
No report.
Okay, ASBA, Zone 6, Mr. Mastel.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Typically, the zone meeting follows our meeting the day following, but I have not received any notice of the meeting, so I don't know when we're meeting next. So I have no report.
Okay, thank you. ACSTA, we met on last Thursday and Friday in Edmonton. And so for directors, and it was actually a very good meeting. We met the new executive director from Grace. She is a Spitfire Irishman. So I expect some really cool things to be happening with Grace. I'll send more out in the report when they send it to me. There was quite a bit of discussion on different things, but what they really were pushing was make sure you meet with your MLAs. And there was 2 reasons to meet. The first one was on the Catholic school tax. And what's the second one? About post-election. I'll send it all out in a report when they send it to me. And but they really want us to meet with the MLAs, so we're gonna have to come up with meetings for both of our MLAs. Hopefully we can get a meeting with Danielle Smith. They want her to withdraw the mandate letter that she sent to infrastructure. So that's the biggie. So we need to have that. And there will be more in my report about that. So, but that's really important that we do that. So we really need to set up those meetings. Okay, that's all I can really report right now because I don't have it all together. We just met on Friday, so yeah.
I have a question, Madam Chair. I received a text message, Global News. There was a trustee removed as a director.
Yes.
What's
That's a trustee from Red Deer Catholic.
Yes.
She had posted something on Instagram. Now, the Red Deer board is, as you guys all know, is separate from ACSTA. ACSTA has its own code of ethics. Each board has their own code of ethics. So Red Deer is still dealing with this, but when the code of ethics was read at the provincial level, it was decided that she would be removed from the ACSTA board of directors. Now, Red Deer board is still dealing with that, but it was because of a post on Instagram that the ACSTA as a board felt was inappropriate. And in our code of ethics, if it's inappropriate and against the teachings of the church, then it can be, that person can be removed. They asked the Minister of Education to become involved, and he said it's not in his jurisdiction to remove one trustee. He can disband a whole board, but that's the board's issue. So they're still dealing with that. So that's what that was. And it was all over the news. If you want to see what the Instagram message was, you can look it up yourself. Okay, any other questions? Medicine Hat Catholic Education, Mr. Kinch, you guys met or anything? Probably not.
No, we haven't met yet, Madam Chair. We meet on the 19th.
Okay. Parent Association, we haven't met either. Teacher Employee TIBA, Mr. Mescal.
Madam Chair, I don't know if there's a meeting scheduled. Greg, do you have a date? I don't have one.
There is one coming up. But, September 21st.
September 21st.
Okay, that's the end of our committee reports. Closing prayer, Mother Teresa School.
Just while Chelsea's getting that ready, Madam Chair, that we chose Mother Teresa because, of course, the feast day of St. Teresa of Calcutta is in September, and it's a little bit different than the other prayers that we have. It's maybe a little not as polished, but what I like about it is these students are leading all these other students in prayer, so I think it's really beautiful that way.
No pressure, Chelsea.
Just when you want it to work.
Technology is great, isn't it?
job.
All right, we are adjourned.